Hey guys, I'm Kat and welcome back to my channel, and you are very precariously on a Loot Crate box and a picture because I wanted to stand in this video, which is interesting because I've been standing all day. You think I'd want to sit. Also, I'm fairly certain some of my neighbors can see me through my window because I always keep it open because I like waking up to the sun. Cars are going off. Also, that tapping that you hear in my wall is right here. This happens when me and my neighbors use our water. It makes that noise. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, I wanted to stand today and I wanted to make a more structured video that had more structure, but I decided not to. I decided while I'm waiting for my food to thaw and about to make my lunch for tomorrow, I was going to make a video while I'm standing here. I feel like I should close my window. I also feel like you're at a weird angle, and I'm afraid to mess with you because you're going to fall. But yes, we are currently standing in my kitchen / very empty living room because my living room is still incredibly empty. I'll show you. Yeah, so this is my living room. Yeah. Super freaking empty. And I ruined the setup that I just had. 1 second, let me adjust you while we're standing here. Oh God. And you know you'd think I'd edit this out, but I'm not gonna. Okay. Alright, so today we are going to talk about something that I find really interesting about myself, and I have talked about in other videos that I have a logical side and a not so logical side, and they typically battle a lot, especially with what I'm about to talk about. This is a video I've wanted to talk about and make for a long time, but I haven't had my own space to make it and stuff, so I decided to wait. The video that inspired me is a video that Gabby Hanna made about her being psychic. So if that alludes to what I'm about to talk about, I don't think I'm psychic necessarily, but I do think that I am an empath. I've talked about that before. And I do think that I am sensitive to certain things, and I like, neighbors, they kind of just do things outside. But anyway, as I was saying, I do think that I'm an empath, and I do think that I'm more sensitive to things. I think a lot of people in my family are, though. I know me and my sister are. And the word precog is kind of weird, but I have a really strong, very, very, very strong intuition. And so there have been a couple instances in my life that have really kind of shown that, and a couple of my friends kind of think that I am too. So I wanted to talk about some of the instances in my life that were too coincidental to be coincidental, if that makes sense. Because of course I do believe in coincidences. I do believe that sometimes things just happen to fall into place the right way. But I do also think that some people are more connected to certain parts of the world, more open, more sensitive, and can sense things more than others. And I happen to think that I live in that world. So the reason I'm moving all weird is because of my logical side. So my logical side tells me it's coincidental. Yes, you do have great intuition and you are an empath, but you're not psychic. You're just weird. The other part of me, the more dominant part of me, that is more spiritual, that believes in that kind of thing to a degree, is trying to tell that one to shut up. But yeah, so let's get into some of the instances that kind of support my theory. So a few years ago, my best friend's grandma was really sick and she was dying. And this is the one that kind of supports that I'm kind of more of a sensitive and connected to things. But her grandma was dying, and we spent a lot of time taking care of her grandma and, you know, being there for her. And I remember I was with my best friend every single night the entire week that she was supposed to go. I barely slept that night, that week, because I knew that my best friend needed me, so sleep was not an option. But one night, the night that I decided to go home and to sleep in my own bed, because I was staying at her place for a while, I went to sleep fairly early, and I had a dream about her grandma. And it's one of those dreams where you're like in a fog, and like there's a lot of echoes, and you have tracers when you look at the lights, which, side note, most people who do like ecstasy and Molly know what a tracer is, but a tracer is when you look at lights and they're kind of rippling. I know you can get it when you're really dehydrated too, but I remember in this dream it was kind of foggy, and every time I looked at lights they would ripple, and it was just kind of like me and my best friend and her grandma just like laughing and stuff. And then I remember the dream just kind of going dead and black, and then I remember it was just me and my best friend was gone, and her grandma, I call her my grandma too, but her grandma came out of the dark and came up to me, and I remember her talking to me in the dream, but I don't know what she said. I don't remember what she said. But then I woke up, and not too long after I woke up, I got a phone call from my best friend, and she told me that her grandma had just died. And I remember for a second, it hadn't processed because I thought I was still dreaming. But then after, I woke up more, I got ready, and I went to her place, which is literally down the street, and I remember telling her, I had a dream about her before, and then you called me, and I got a feeling that she was going to call me. Now, while some people may say, of course it's coincidental, you just came home from her place, you knew she was dying, of course you had a dream. Other people would say, well, you were really close to this person, so of course she came to you when you were sleeping. Because when you're sleeping, I believe that your spirit is outside of your body, so you're easier to contact by the spirit world than when you're awake, when you're conscious. But I believe that I'm someone who's more connected to certain worlds because of the experiences that I've had in my life with ghosts and spirits and stuff like that, and being in spirits following me around, that I think that she came to me because I am a sensitive, and because she knows that she could come to me, and she came to me to say goodbye, but a feeling also tells me that she came to me to make sure that my best friend was okay, which is extremely touching, which leads me to another story. So, a couple of weeks after she died, my best friend and I and her dad were going to Nissan Altima because she needed a fan belt for her car, and we found out the only place that had the exact fan belt she needed was at Nissan Altima. So I remember distinctly, I had a Wendy's Frosty, my best friend was driving, I let her dad sit in the front car because he's older than me and that's just how I am, and I was sitting in the back seat. And I remember I got in the car and I was holding my Wendy's Frosty, and I got this feeling that I didn't want to get in the car. I didn't want to go. And that was partly because a day before I had a dream that me and my best friend got in an accident in the same car. So I was really jittery about it because it was a very vivid dream. But also just something was telling me that I shouldn't be getting in the car, but I just thought, you're just being weird, you had a dream, it's making you feel weird. So we get in the car, we're just driving along, and we get close to Nissan Altima, and I get this strange urge to turn around and look behind us, because I just got this really strong, almost itchy feeling that we were gonna get hit. And I wanted to turn around and watch. But a voice in my head told me, don't turn around, don't look, you don't want to turn around and look. And typically I would ignore that voice and do it anyway, but something in me told me not to do it. And so I didn't. We're pulling in a Nissan Altima, and next thing I know, we're getting jolted forward, I'm getting showered with glass. And my best friend's trying to control the car, and I literally get the Wendy's Frosty in my right eye, and I can't see out of my right eye, and my glasses fly off, so I can't see out of my left eye. And I just remember when the car stopped, all I could do was laugh and ask if she was okay. And I remember we got out of the car, and I looked at her and I told her, I was like, I knew we were gonna get hit by a car. I could feel it. I could feel it in my soul, my heart, my bones, my entire body. I could feel it. And And that beeping noise is me having to change my fire alarm batteries, but I've been too lazy to do it. Anyway, when we got out of the car, I told her that I knew we were going to get hit by a car, and that I had this weird feeling when we were leaving her house, and that I had this feeling to turn around and look behind us, but something or someone told me not to, so I didn't. And I remember she was disheveled. I couldn't see out of my right eye because of the Wendy's Frosty, which is lucky, because if I would have ignored that voice, whatever it was, I would have gotten a face full of glass rather than a face full of chocolate Frosty. And then the cops come. I keep saying I remember, and I'm trying not to. The cops came, and what was interesting is if you looked at the back of the car, which I can see if I can find pictures of it, it was crushed terribly. It was crushed really, really bad. And you could see a shape, like a rounded shape of something in the trunk. And so we look in the trunk, and there's just this random spare tire that neither of us knew was in there. And if you looked in the back seat where I was sitting, you could see part of it pushed forward, but not very much. We found out that the kid that was driving down the road was doing 60 in a 45-mile-per-hour lane. And the cop told me that he thinks that the tire took the brunt of some of the hit because the car that hit us hard enough to where it should have pushed me into the front seat, and it didn't. And he thinks that because the tire was on my side. So he thinks that the tire hook took a lot of the brunt of the hit and saved my life. Not too long after this happened, my best friend and her dad and I were talking, and all three of us were convinced that the voice that was telling me not to turn around, the person that was giving me the feeling that we were going to get hit by a car, was her grandma. All three of us think that she did that to save our lives and to protect us, and that she didn't take the tire out because somehow she knew not to. And I'm convinced of that too, that I don't think it was my conscience, and I do think it was partly my intuition, but I do think it was something, whether it be a family member I know that's watching over me or her grandma watching over us, protecting us, because I honestly do think, going down 60 miles per hour down a 45-mile-per-hour road, I think that's like over 15 miles per hour if I can math right. That could have really, really killed us. And I honestly believe that my really strong intuition and her grandma spoke to me to let me know, don't turn around, don't look behind you. You don't want to do that. Because if I did, I think I would have gone blind. Third story I'm going to talk about that kind of speaks more to the fact that I think I'm kind of a precog, has to do with a friend of mine. We were working together, and it was, I think, the Sunday or a couple of days before Thanksgiving, and she was talking to me about how her family wanted to go to their place, but she was working on Thanksgiving, so she couldn't go. And I made a little joke, a little cynical joke, that, oh, well, your family can always come here and come see you. She was like, no, blah, 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 I don't want that. Next thing you know, an hour and a half later, her sister, three of her sisters, her mom, and her aunt walk in. And I had to take a minute because typically when it comes out is when I make a cynical, dark joke, or if I'm distressed and having anxiety. That's usually when it comes out more. When I'm in a good mood or something like that, that's typically when it doesn't come out. It usually comes out in dreams and in when I'm being really cynical. And yeah, she was like, oh, these are my sisters. And I was like, okay. And then they leave, and I looked at her and I was like, I am so sorry that I put that out in the world. I didn't mean for that to happen. And she was telling me that somehow she thinks I knew that it was going to happen. And that was one of those instances where a lot of people say, oh, it's just a coincidence. But to me, that is way too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. That literally an hour and a half before they came in, I made a joke, oh, well, your family can always come here and see you if you can't go to Thanksgiving. Next thing I know, her three sisters, her mom, and her aunt come in. That is way too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. And that's not the first time I've done that with people. That's not the first time I've made cynical jokes about things. There was one that's not that great. One that actually makes me feel guilty. So this next one, has to do with someone really close to me, and he was living with a woman for a while, and they didn't really talk or get along, but there was one week where he didn't see her for a long, long time, and he started to get worried that, she was gone or anything like that, and I made a awful, terrible joke that, maybe you should check on her, because what if she's dead in the room that she was staying in? A couple of days later, I get a phone call from his mom saying that I need to call him because he found his roommate dead. So I call him, and I find out that he found her dead in the room, and I remember feeling this weight in my chest, because somehow I knew that that was true, because that was partly why I made the joke, because it's like, it was a joke, but at the same time, when I made the joke, I kind of had this really strong feeling that he should check on her, and he didn't, neither did I. When I had that feeling, I should have. And it makes me feel bad because I know that I didn't cause it to happen, but I do feel like part of me knew that it was going to happen and that I should have done something about it when I knew that. But it's like, you don't expect that to happen, so you just don't. You don't really expect to find someone like that. And honestly, I do feel a sense of guilt, because I feel like if I would have gone with that intuition of I should really check, he wouldn't be dealing with something so terrible. But that's one of the times where my little ability has really gotten to me, because it's just, I don't know. It got really serious. It's just something that, I don't think I should have made a joke like that. I shouldn't have made a joke about death like that, because life is way too fragile to be making jokes like that and putting it out in the world. And I have been trying to not be so cynical like that. And I mean, I have a lot of dark humor and gallows humor, but I lately have been trying to be very careful about instances like that. That it kind of got a little more serious. That's one that kind of really makes me feel weird, because that's one that got a little too close. Not just because this is a person that I care about that experienced something awful, but because it just was a little too close. And but there have been times where I'll have a dream about something bad happening to a friend of mine, and then something bad happens to them. Or sometimes I'll have good dreams, and really good dreams of getting with someone. I had a dream a long time ago, before I met my boyfriend, about, I remember so clearly, we were in an apartment, a line of apartments, those, in Japan, how it's apartments are stacked on each other. It was kind of like that. And I remember I was sitting on a balcony, and the balcony was covered in fairy lights. And I was sitting next to this guy that his face was blurry. I couldn't see his face, but he had blonde hair. He had a neck tattoo, which this is going to get interesting. He had a neck tattoo. I don't think I've ever told my boyfriend this, but he had a neck tattoo, and he was an artsy dude. And of course, it's this is a dream. How do you know that? It's a feeling. When you dream about someone, you have a feeling. You know who they are. You know what they like. And we were just sitting on this balcony talking, and I remember waking up and feeling that's my person. That is the kind of person I'm supposed to be with. And thinking, oh, it's just a dream, it's wishful thinking, and that, it's really sad when you have a dream like that. It feels so real that you think it's real until you wake up. And then flash forward a couple of years later, I meet my boyfriend, who is extremely artsy and creative. He's blonde, and he's got a neck tattoo. And I was holy fucking shit. I honestly feel because back then I was really sad and really depressed and just filled with such terrible, loathing feelings about myself that it was bad. And I think that the world or whatever higher being or something gave me this dream to give me hope that maybe I'll meet the person I'm supposed to meet and not be dating the person I was. And then I met Danny, my boyfriend, when I was in a really dark, self-loathing place. And he was someone that like pulled me out of that self-loathing and actually made me happy. And that's what attracted me to him, was that he could make me laugh. Like genuinely. Like people can make me laugh, but it wasn't just like, it was like laugh, you know, like normal laughter, but he could like make me full body, deep in the gut, really happy laugh. And at that time, not very many people could, and he did, and that's what made me really attracted to him. And I just, after I really got to know him, I remembered that dream, and I was like, holy shit. Like that dream was literally a prediction of my future. Not that, you know, we've ever sat on a balcony covered in Christmas lights and anything like that, but I just think it was like, hold on for a second, continue to hold on until you meet this person, and then you'll understand why you were holding on. So there you go, those are some instances where I think that I'm slightly psychic or precog. I know I'm sensitive and an empath. I don't know how to explain it in a way that doesn't sound weird, but there you go. I do think that some people are just more open and connected to things than others. And I like to think that me and my sister are part of that world. But yeah, this is gonna be a long video. I also really need to cook my food because I need to go to bed. And so thank you for joining me in this video. If you've ever had any instances where you've predicted something, had a dream about something, or just a really strong feeling that something's going to happen, let me know. I'd be really, really interested in seeing that. And yeah, I'm gonna make my food, I'm gonna wash my face, take out my contacts, go to bed, watch Ninja Turtles and stuff. And I hope that you have a wonderful day and a beautiful night. And this is Kat signing off. Goodbye.